Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Have your say, and a very warm welcome to Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Happy April the 1st to you all. Yes, it is April Fool's Day, everyone, and a bunch of fools will be trying to misinform you just for laughs. But one person who's no fool is me, your good mate, Mick. So I can promise you this platform here on YouTube and Movies TV Mad over on Twitter, give me a follow at Movies TV Mad, will not misinform you, will not be sharing any April Fool's Day jokes or misinformation. You're going to scream at me, but Mick, where's your sense of humour? As you know, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm always up for a laugh. But I don't think misinformation is a laughing matter. The problem with April Fool's Day is sometimes you get some genuine news, breaking, exciting entertainment news and DC news that you don't know if it's true or not. The reason it frustrates me, I like to go on Twitter and collate and retweet like entertainment, DC news in general, because it helps me build up for the next day's DC Universe Daily. There are prefixed dates in my mind I can't stand, just like April Fool's Day and Valentine's Day. I hate Valentine's Day. I despise Valentine's Day on the internet because basically it's a bunch of pretty people bragging about their pretty perfect lives and their pretty partners. It's all bullshit, of course. They treat each other like shit. But basically, they're the couple of dates I really, really hate. And I'm no fan of Halloween either, but hey, that's not so much a bigger deal. Anyway, let's get on with today's show. So, Matt Reeves has been teasing The Batman 2. Now, it's quite an old quote from last year's Happy and Confused podcast. I don't know if it's been publicised before, but I've screenshotted it for you and we're going to give it a read. He doesn't say much, but it is very interesting. Let's go. Matt Reeves talks The Batman 2. Whatever that story's going to be, it's going to take these characters and put them in some kind of emotional jeopardy. There's a deep dive that already happened at the beginning, and now I'm going to have to deep dive again. So that's very, very interesting from Matt Reeves. Now, after we finish talking about this, there are rumoured spin-offs, free spin-offs for free DC characters from Matt Reeves in his The Batman universe as well. So he certainly is taking a deep dive, which is exciting. And I'm also going to discuss a little bit later how I think that DC Universe shouldn't actually have a Batman and just allow Matt to do his thing separately. We don't need two separate versions of Batman. It's a fucking insane idea, and someone is going to lose out, and I believe it's James Gunn's DC Universe. Anyway, from this quote you can tell he's not ready to, tell us about the story he's planning, but he's talking about an emotional situation. He's talking about emotional drama. I think if you're very intelligent and you were paying attention when you watched the first film, it's pretty obvious what he's planning to do with the sequel. Let's discuss it. At the end of The Batman, Selina Kyle declares she's going off to Bloodhaven. Now we know about Bloodhaven in the comics. We know who resides in Bloodhaven. So I foresee, for example, Selina returning to Gotham City with Dick Grayson. But I believe it won't be the Dick Grayson we know and love. I think he'll be some kind of physical kind of bodyguard for Selina, some kind of lethal enforcer. And I think she's going to return to Gotham to fight for the criminal underworld, to fight to take it over. Don't forget, she's Falcone's daughter. Matt Reeves made her Falcone's daughter for a reason. And I believe, and I always believed from the moment I saw that moment when it's revealed that she's actually his daughter, that they were going to do that. I think this would be absolutely epic and awesome. Because he does talk about these emotional situations. And of course, by Selina fighting to take over leadership of the criminal underworld of Gotham City, it puts her to opposite sides of Bruce, which is the whole point, right? That's the whole point, because they got close in the first film, and you know, if they're on opposing sides, it makes it an even more compelling story, and it really makes their relationship, their potential romance continuing, very, very complicated. And I think this is what Matt Reeves is alluding to. And of course, there's lots of other things that you can see here. There's other interesting dynamics. Does Alfred have more secrets? Has he been keeping more secrets from Bruce Wayne as well? I think so. I had this awful feeling that it was going to be revealed in the first film that Alfred actually killed the Waynes or had something to do with it, or actually was the assassin that killed them. Because we know of Alfred's history in the comics, and they're going with that kind of military kind of history in this film as well, in this universe. So yeah, Matt Reeves teasing the emotional elements of this film, and how, you know, the situations will be very, very emotional. Now, personally, I really hope we get another 3-hour epic movie. I love long movies. I never felt that it was a long movie. It didn't drag for me. The pacing was perfect. You know, people talking to each other isn't slow pacing, isn't bad pacing, and this generation needs to start understanding this. Continuing on the subject of Matt Reeves, The Batman Chapter 2, there are rumoured spin-offs for his franchise, and here they are. Rumour, according to verified sources, 3 villain spin-offs for Matt Reeves' Batverse are now in development. Clayface, wow. Poison Ivy, yes. The Scarecrow. The Poison Ivy spin-off is reportedly inspired by Rappaccini's Daughter, a gothic short story by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So that's very, very interesting. And the inspiration for that character sounds very, very Matt Reeves, doesn't it? For Poison Ivy, yeah. So this is very, very exciting. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about these rumoured spin-offs. I believe they're all true. Matt Reeves isn't like James Gunn. He's not going to waste his time saying this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. He just lets it go over his head. And in interviews, if he's asked, he'll be direct and honest, or as honest as he can be. So as I say, Matt Reeves is taking a deep dive into The Batman universe. This is a very, very good thing, but it's not a good thing for James Gunn. Not that that bothers me. I'm not really bothered or interested in James Gunn's comfort zone or his situation. But if you are a James Gunn fan and you are excited about his DC universe, you can see many, many red flags here. Unfortunately for James, he's turned up at DC and found these situations where the Batman was a thing even before he turned up. It was always going to get a sequel. 750 million, during a COVID pandemic, crisis globally, is a great result for the Batman, and Zaslav saw the potential in doing a sequel which could potentially go a lot higher than 750 million. I'm predicting at least $1 billion box office for the sequel globally. I'm very, very confident. I'm not normally confident in predicting box offices, but I'm very, very confident that this could even be a better movie than The Dark Knight. And everyone's trying to say the next DC movie, like The Flash, is, the first movie to be as good as The Dark Knight. I really think that Matt Reeves has the ability to do this. But with these deep dives in place from Matt Reeves, do we really need a Batman in the DC universe? I'm going to be very, very controversial, not purposely controversial. It's my defined opinion, and it's my opinion. It doesn't mean you have to hate me for it, and I don't have to hate you if you disagree with me. I don't think we should have a Batman in DC universe. I think it's a very, very dangerous game to play to actually have 2 separate Batmen in 2 separate universes. And as I said the other day, one's going to be more favoured than the other. You could have the DC Universe Batman utterly reviled and, everyone loving Matt Reeves' take. Because Matt Reeves' take is going to be very, very intelligent. Matt Reeves thinks deeply about everything. He writes and shoots. That's why we're not getting the Batman Chapter 2 until 2025. He takes his time. He's a slow worker. Now, I prefer this, and I'm not in a rush to see the Batman 2. Not because I don't want to see it, because I want Matt to be allowed to take his time. Now, it's interesting. Prior to Zaslav coming on board, AT&T and Jason Kilar were very, very patient with him, as well as Walter Hamada. Now and again they'd say, come on, we at least need a trailer, but he takes his time. And if Zaslav was to get impatient with him, it will be very problematic. We know how reactive Zaslav is. You've got to be patient with this guy, or he will walk, just like he walked when they tried to say to him, we want you to direct the Batfleck movie. He said, no, that's not my movie. That's Ben's movie. That's a problem. I can't direct Ben. He's more than capable of directing his own movie. I can't be doing his idea. I love Batman and I want to direct my own Batman movie. And everything he said in terms of that was absolutely spot on. And that's why he got his own The Batman movie, because Matt Reeves is a very, very talented writer-director. Anyone should be excited about an auteur like this getting that opportunity. But I think because we're getting such a huge dive from Matt Reeves' The Batman universe, do we really need yet another Batman? It's unfortunate because, you can imagine that James Gunn has big plans for Batman, and you can see them being, I suppose, a bit more PG friendly, and the comic book Batman, the lighter Batman, the fantastical Batman, kind of a lot of us want. I mean, in one way, I suppose you could say I'm quite wrong to have this opinion, because you can have two different versions of Batman, but I do think it's rather problematic to have two versions of the Batman, and I think James Gunn is going to land himself in a lot of trouble. But Gunn hasn't announced a writer or director for this movie. And this movie is such a long way off of being developed, in pre-production, or anything else. So why isn't there anyone attached to this movie? Well, I think that Gunn is kind of waiting for the franchise of Matt Reeves' The Batman universe to be over. Let's look at the timetable and schedule. Has Matt got an end game here, or just does he want to keep on making more and more Batman spin-offs and more of the Batman movies past the trilogy? Well, James Gunn will be hoping, and of course he's spoken to Matt, so he'll know what his plans are. But if it is a trilogy, you're looking at the sequel coming in 2025, a few spin-offs being developed and being aired as well, probably on HBO Max and other streaming services. And then you get the Batman 2 in 2025, and then there'll be a third movie. Before the third movie, there'll be more spin-offs, and then when you get the third movie, that could be it. But because Matt takes so long, I mean, we're talking about 2025, we probably won't get the Batman 3 till 2028. Now, we're in 2023. So without no start date for Brave and the Bold, it could be we may not even see a Brave and the Bold movie to 2030, and that sounds ridiculous. It sounds an outlandish statement by me. But, you can't have, I don't think you can certainly have the Batman Brave and the Bold movie and any of the Batman movie, whether it's 2 or 3, out at the same time. And it looks like, because there's no plans or no one attached to Brave and the Bold, it's definitely not going to be coming out in 2025. I mean, it's plausible for that to happen, but we don't want that to happen. And what's interesting to me as well, you've got a Batman and a Superman movie out in 2025, according to the studio. Superman Legacy will release in 2025 in the summer, and the Batman Chapter 2 will release in 2025, whatever date that is. I'm not sure if they've even attached an exact date yet. So you've got a Superman and a Batman movie that are not connected to each other. They will never cross over. I mean, never say never in this game, but yeah, they're from two separate universes, two separate Earths, right? This is very DC. This is very traditional DC. In 2005, we had Batman Begins. In 2006, we had Superman Returns. Those versions weren't in the same universe or were never catalogued. There was no crossovers, cameos. They were separate. Superman Returns did its own thing, and then, well, Batman Begins did its own thing with Chris Nolan. Then Bryan Singer did Superman Returns. Now, you can see why it's a bit of a relief that, for probably Christopher Nolan, that Batman Begins and Superman Returns weren't connected. Chris would never have allowed that to happen anyway. He's not into that type of thing, as you well know. Superman Returns had a mixed response, and, you know, Chris wouldn't have wanted his universe involved in that. And maybe, you know, when you think about Bryan Singer and Christopher Nolan as people, two very, very different kind of directors as well. So, you know, this is why you protect your characters and your vision by not being connected to other things. Now, there were a lot of rumours as James Gunn came in. Some people were actually saying that Matt had agreed for it to be part of the DC universe. But Matt would never have agreed that. So in the back of my mind, I knew that was bullshit. And when Gunn confirmed that on Twitter, actually Matt Reeves, who very rarely comes out and responds to people, said, yes, James knows. Yeah, James knows. If James ever tried to force Matt into crossing over into DC Universe, Matt would be in his Batmobile speeding away. And they're the facts and the reality of the matter. I'm extremely excited for Matt Reeves' plans. I just don't think we need another Batman universe, another Batman actor being developed and shown to us at the same time where Matt's universe exists. And I've got this sneaking feeling that James Gunn is waiting for the trilogy to be over, the spin-offs to be over, until he actually launches or even attaches anyone to that film. But people are expecting something different. It's in the slate. You know, Brave and the Bold is in the slate. People are expecting someone to be attached. But no one's attached to anything apart from James writing and directing Superman Legacy. And something else in my theory that DC Studios isn't a real company. DC Studios, as far as I can see, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm very comfortable with being wrong, DC Studios doesn't actually have any social media accounts. Not on Twitter, not on Facebook, and not on Instagram. Again, if I'm wrong, I apologise for misinforming you. And that's also a very, very strange situation. The day it launched, I expected DC Studios to have its own account. Now, DC Comics does have its own account, but that's a separate thing because that's about everything, DC Comics. If you've got an official DC Studios, you want social media accounts. Every single bloody company has official social media accounts for their studios and other companies. So why doesn't DC Studios? It doesn't have any employees. It just has two people with a couple of writers, right? And that's it. There's no chief executive of this. There's no chief executive of the, you know, of the photocopier. It's a company. There's nobody fucking there. I mean, it's not really a real studio. There's not a building called DC Studios, right? I understand that. It's a company, right? It's an official company with nothing actually going on there. Marvel Studios is a living, breathing company. And it was from the day that the first Iron Man movie was announced. Kevin Feige was there. He wasn't the top guy, by the way. Somebody else had that job at first. That, you know, it had people there. It was a living and breathing company, whether you're a Marvel fan or you're not. They formed a proper, good studios in the early days. It's not that now, with accusations of bullying and controversies and bullying of VFX artists. I understand. But it was always a living, breathing company. So my theory that it's not actually a real waking studio, I think, is a reality. But the question we have to ask is why? Why doesn't it have a social media accounts? Why doesn't it have a structure? Why doesn't it have people working within it, apart from James Gunn and Peter Safran? because we have to sadly accept that it's all a facade, and what David Zaslav is doing here is planning for the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery to the rumoured Universal. Now, he can't do this to next year, so this is an interesting situation, and if you look at their books, or if you look at the money they haven't made in the past 20 years, I mean, it's been a long time since they made $1 billion movie. I don't know whether, was Aquaman the last $1 billion movie? Of course it wasn't. The Joker did $1 billion, but they don't, that most of their films fail or make a very, very small box office. And, you know, it's a very strange situation. But still, we can be excited right now with what's going on in terms of Matt Reeves, the Batman universe, and what he's building. At the very least, you can say, right, he's attached to WB, that's happening, that's cool. Matt Reeves, the Joker sequel, not Matt Reeves, the Joker sequel, I apologise, correction, it's not an April Fool's joke, he's not going to direct the Joker 2, no. So Todd Phillips' Joker sequel, coming out next year, in production right now. Apparently, Lady Gaga could be heard singing, and apparently they could be on those iconic stairs from the first movie, singing a duet. Yes, Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix singing together. Call me intrigued, call me hyped, call me excited. I'm up for this, baby. Take my money now. But yeah, in terms of those universes, what Todd and Matt are doing, I'm extremely hyped. But I'm very suspicious about everything else. Yesterday we discussed the rumoured launch date of a Blue Beetle first trailer, which is very, very exciting. It's rumoured to launch on Monday. Don't be surprised if it launches tomorrow instead, but at the moment it's being rumoured for Monday. Now, I do follow the director on Instagram. I did ask him, but he didn't respond, unfortunately. I was asking for you guys and girls, of course, and for myself, because I'm very, very interested in Blue Beetle. I also discussed yesterday how Blue Beetle could be a much needed win for DC. But why do I believe this? Why do I believe it's the most realistic place for a win? It doesn't have the baggage of the other movies. It was part of Walter Hamada's planning, but it's something he inserted as the future of the DCEU after the Flashpoint changes the timeline. After Flashpoint changes the timeline, that was the new normal we were going to have. We were going to have Batgirl, Supergirl, Keaton's Batman, and Blue Beetle. In fact, Michael Keaton did record a cameo for that movie, and one of the actors actually confirmed this ages ago. Sadly, I can't see a scenario where we're actually ever going to see that cameo, because Michael Keaton won't be the DCEU Batman, you know, going forward. It's something that James Gunn didn't want. Sometimes I agree with James, sometimes I disagree with James. I think James is right to want a younger, you know, more vibrant Batman as part of the DC Universe Batman, even though I've just said I think he shouldn't even be touching Batman until Matt Reeves is finished from his stuff. Michael Keaton going forward as the main DC Universe Batman was never a good idea. I love Michael Keaton. He's one of my favourite actors. He's one of my favourite Batmen, one of my favourite Bruce Waynes. He's excellent, but he's too old to be the main Batman. He's not too old to be in the Flash movie. His appearance in the Flash movie, he's in it quite a lot. And what he does in that is amazing. And for a man of his age to be jumping about, because sometimes it's not a stuntman, I could tell. It's actually him. He does a lot of the physicality himself. And I prefer that, because sometimes you can tell that it's VFX and CGI, because you can tell it's not him doing certain things. So in terms of the Flash and the cameo I saw in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, he was excellent. Tragically, it looks like that's something we may never see, but Jason Momoa months ago teased that we could get a Batfleck and a Michael Keaton cameo in that film. I mean, I would, even as messy as that sounds, I think that would be really cool. You know, I'd love to see those two different versions of Batman on the screen together. How cool would that be? But in terms of Blue Beetle, it doesn't have the baggage of Shazam, of Aquaman. It doesn't have any baggage. This is loose of any baggage. This is something new. The lead actor who's playing Blue Beetle is actually a big star, very popular with a young audience over on Cobra Kai, over on Netflix. I think kids are going to be interested, even though film stars and actors don't really lure many audiences these days. I think this kid is very popular, loved. There's going to be lots of Latino representation and inclusion, which is a good thing, because Latinos don't get very much. They get more than other communities. I mean, my own community, the Greek Cypriot community, what have we had? We've had Kojak, Telly Savalas was a Greek actor. I'm actually from Cyprus, Greek Cypriot. There's a difference. If you're from Greece, you're a Greek. And if you're from Cyprus, you're Greek Cypriot, just to educate you a bit. And my big fat Greek wedding isn't very good Greek Cypriot representation and inclusion. But anyway, let's stick to the subject at hand. My point being that this could be a very, very entertaining film. And on Monday, at the very least, we'll find out how the suit looks, how, the cinematography looks. And it's going to be interesting what they show us. Apparently, it's 2.5 minutes, or at least around 2 minutes, 30 seconds, which is a lot of time. And of course, here on Movies TV Mad, we're going to react to this trailer. Of course, we're going to do a trailer reaction. Of course, we're going to extensively look at every bit of it and every second and pull it apart and talk about it. And I'm very excited to do so. And it's very, very interesting in the timing this trailer is coming out. Because right now, in my opinion, we should be building up to the Flash movie. We should be getting multiple TV spots. Now, you're saying, Mick, it's a bit too early. It's not out till June. I understand. But this is a movie they really want to make a lot of money. Now, the first trailer was very, very popular. You need posters everywhere from now. You want actors talking about it from now and not stopping to its release in June. This was the problem with the Shazam! Fury of the Gods thing. Films today don't seem to be marketed as long as they were, or as much as they were, when I was a kid. I've noticed that. When Superman 4: The Quest for Peace was being marketed, I remember it being marketed for about a year, and it still was a flop, right? But the point is, I remember it being in my brain. Even if you remember BVS, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, TV spots all over the place, posters. It was so excited. They had the movie in our heads. And I think what I would have done, instead of having a trailer now for Blue Beetle, I would have the Flash movie everywhere right now. And in fact, the Blue Beetle trailer would have premiered for me before the Flash movie in cinemas. And then as soon as it gets its first screening in cinemas, then you bring it online. And that's what I would have done. Because if you show it exclusively at first in cinemas, it puts more butts and seats for the Flash movie as well. And that's what I call good marketing. But I am quite positive, more positive than I ever was for Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Black Beetle, that this film can do really well, get good reviews, and get young fans excited for DC and comic book movies again. As I spoke about before, about the interconnected franchises not being the thing for fans and general audiences anymore. I think something that, like Blue Beetle, can be very exciting for audiences again. I think it has everything in its locker. It has a great director. I think that it was, and I mean, looking back at the production, I don't even think they did many, many reshoots. I think everyone was happy with this movie. I don't think this will be a particularly long movie. I think it will just be over 2 hours long, around the same length of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. But I do think there's a potential. And Blue Beetle, don't get it twisted here. It may not be a well-known character with the general audience, but in terms of DC fans and stans, they love Blue Beetle. And I mean, a lot of people have been sharing the Blue Beetle story in Smallville. Smallville pulled it off again. A brilliant version of Blue Beetle. But this is a movie. It's had money spent on it. And I do know that Warner Brothers are very positive about this movie. As I say, this movie had no production problems. This movie is set after the Flashpoint situation. After the Flash movie, when the timeline has changed. That was Walter Hamada's plan, and it's also Gunn's and Saffron's plan. They're sticking with that. So it will be interesting how they do that, and if there's any mention of any other of the characters. And when they're talking about Superman, clearly they're going to have to be talking about the Superman Legacy Superman and not Henry Cavill's Superman. So because it doesn't have that added baggage, because this is the first movie and it's something fresh, people may be willing to go and give DC another chance. This has been Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. And please have your say. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.